So rather ironically, we're here because our marriage was failing miserably when we tried to do it our way. And our topic, natural family planning, living the truth of Humanae Vitae, is a little bit difficult for us. This has been, as we have been asked to address this topic a little bit more openly and to write about it, it's been difficult for our parents. We both did grow up in good homes. My parents celebrated 50 years of marriage last year. My husband's parents will celebrate 50 years this year. So we were blessed with good role models in the home. But it is difficult, and I had a few people already ask, how do I help my brothers or sisters if they don't understand the church teaching, and how can I help to lead them out of contraception? And hopefully there will be something that we'll say today that may help, because we're still in that category. We're somewhat of the oddballs in our own families to a certain extent, so we are constantly praying for our own brothers and sisters, because many of them do still reject the church's teaching in this area. But we were both raised cradle Catholics. We dated in high school for a few months and then kind of parted ways, dated in the same crowd, and came together again in college. We went to different Catholic schools. My husband went to an all-boys high school. I went to an all-girls taught by the Sisters of St. Joseph. Both very, very good schools. We had very good education, really encouraged to say the rosary. I was taught to pray for a good husband. The prayers were answered. On the other hand, by the time I graduated from high school, which was in 1967, 1 year before Humanae Vitae, I came out of there with this, looking forward to this big, great world ahead of me. I looked at people like Gloria Steinem as, hey, she's got something there, reproductive freedom, hey, do your own thing. Yeah, this is the way I want it to be. I want everything to be planned. I want it organized. I want it done my way. I really wanted to be in control. And then we came and started dating, and came time for the decision that we wanted to be married. And of course, we wanted a traditional wedding, married in the church, etc.
We had, our marriage prep was done in two places. I was at the military academy at West Point, and I remember leaning against the bench post for a day and a half, going through marriage prep there. And when we got together with the priest in our home parish, the only question he asked us was, do you intend to have children? I said, of course, yes. Then he said those magic words, follow your conscience. And of course, we all know that the rest of the story is after it's been well informed, but since our Catholic theological background was basically derived from reading the religion section in the Washington Times every Sunday, and Jerry had already started taking the pill, we sort of figured that Father's advice was we would follow our conscience and begin contracepting. It's sort of interesting that our priest at West Point, my priest at West Point, told us very clearly that birth control was wrong. It's interesting that just recently we found some letters that we had sent back and forth to each other as we were getting ready for marriage, dealing with this issue. But finally we decided that it was somehow unfair for us to let nature decide when we should have a baby. Birth control seemed to be the only option. Then, right after we got married, I recall going to a department store and we found one of Jerry's high school classmates, 3 years of marriage, 3 little ragamuffins, unhappy marriage. We basically said it wasn't going to happen to us, and we've sort of reaffirmed our commitment to birth control.
Now, in spite of all this, when we got married, this was my wedding gift from my husband. And on the back of the crucifix is inscribed our wedding date. Little did we know at that time just what it meant, how appropriate it is to have our wedding date inscribed on the back of the crucifix. Because when a couple becomes married, their crosses blend, and it is not one cross. And so we must carry this together. And we cannot grow spiritually as a couple without climbing upon this cross together. So we got married, and my husband's first assignment was in Germany. He was in an armor unit, so he was traveling to the field a lot. We got to the point where we really desired to have a child, so I stopped taking the birth control pill. Got pregnant right off the pill, which the doctors say is impossible, or at least that's what they told me then, and miscarried at 4 months. Now this just made us desire a child even more. And fortunately, 1 year after that, we did have a little boy, 9 pounds, 14 ounces. Maybe not so little. We wanted to be the perfect parents. That meant plenty of time for each other and a baby who didn't change our lifestyle. And you have to understand, we lived in Germany, so I couldn't call home for all that advice I needed from Mom because it cost over $90 for a couple of minutes or something. So I really was on my own, very much reinforced by my friends. So we maintained this regular social life, and we parented as the child fit into our schedule. And of course, this meant using childcare and not spending too much time with the baby because then you're going to spoil the baby. We really fell hook, line, and sinker into this whole thinking. And you have to understand, in the military, at least then, the daycare was like 40 cents an hour. So it was just everything was readily available for us to fall into this trap.
We basically fell into this idea that for us, natural equated to everybody else was doing it, so it was okay. We were sort of into this double-speak attitude of incorrectly using words in their opposite meaning. We were unnatural in our choice of family planning, unnatural mothering and fathering. For us, the natural thing to do was basically to put our child in child care, eat TV dinners. We were into that. Jerry didn't know how to cook. Big party life, travel through Europe, and use birth control. Surrounded with positive enforcement of our behavior. Everybody else was doing it. All of our friends were in the same mode. We thought we were doing the right thing of drinking this potion that would bring us happiness. But even though our intentions were right, even though we thought our intentions were right, we were experiencing the effects of our poisonous lifestyle, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. It's sort of interesting that the polls showed that we were right, because 95%, as somebody said earlier, 95% of the couples were contracepting. But there's one thing about polls today. Really, there's only one poll who's right, and he lives in Rome. Back to birth control. Back to the pill. Back to the pill. Within 6 months, we desired to have another baby. It's sort of interesting. This desire was already, kept on coming. So Jerry stopped the pill, miscarried again, more traumatic than the first time. We sort of wanted the baby on our time, on our schedule, at our convenience. We wanted happiness as we have defined it. Finally, Cindy was born on the Feast of Mary, the 1st of January. So now we had one boy, one girl, the perfect family. The oldest one was a junior, so we had replaced ourselves. We thought that we were happy.